Admiral Jake Morrison stood at the big window of Watchtower 7. The space station sat at the edge of the solar system, far from Earth. Jake had been watching the stars for 30 years, but today felt different. Something was wrong. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Amy Parker from her desk. "We're getting reports from the outer colonies. Something bad is happening." Jake walked over to Amy's station. The screens showed data from dozens of human settlements across nearby star systems. Red, warning lights blinked everywhere. Colony after colony was going dark. "Show me New Geneva," Jake said. Amy typed on her keyboard. The screen showed Captain Ryan Bell's face. He looked scared. Behind him, alarms were ringing on his ship's bridge. "Admiral Morrison, this is Captain Bell of the Horizon. New Geneva is gone. The whole colony. Every building, every person. Nothing left but ash and burned rock." Jake felt his stomach drop. New Geneva had 50,000 people. Families, children, workers building a new life among the stars. "What happened, Captain?" Jake asked. "Ships, sir. Alien ships. Bigger than anything we've ever seen. They came out of nowhere and started shooting. Our defenses didn't even slow. Them down. They burned everything." The screen went to static. Captain Bell was gone. Amy looked up at Jake with wide eyes. "Sir, I'm getting the same reports from 12 other colonies. All destroyed in the last 6 hours." Jake sat down heavily in his chair. In his 30 years of service, he had never seen anything like this. Humans had met other alien species before, but they had always been peaceful. Trade, friendship, cooperation. This was different. This was war. "Get me Earth Command," Jake ordered. The main screen lit up with the face of General Nick Foster. "They." General looked tired and worried. "Admiral Morrison, we've been watching the reports. How bad is it?" "Bad, General. We've lost contact with 15 colonies. That's over 500,000 people, and the attacks are getting closer to Earth." General Foster nodded grimly. "We're calling an emergency meeting. President Carter wants to see you in person. Take the fastest ship you have and get to Earth now." 6 hours later, Jake was sitting in the White House Situation Room. President Helen Carter sat at the head of the table. She was a strong woman who had led the country through many crises, but Jake had never seen her look so serious. "Tell me what we know," the president said. General Foster stood up and pressed a button. A holographic map appeared in the center of the table. It showed human space with red X marks over destroyed colonies. "The aliens call themselves the Hegemony. We don't know much about them, but they're not interested in talking. Every colony they hit is completely destroyed. No survivors, no warning, no mercy." Dr. Lisa Graham, Earth's top expert on alien life, spoke up. "From what little data we have, the Hegemony seems to be a collective species. They think all other intelligent life is dangerous and needs to be destroyed. They've been doing this for thousands of years across the galaxy. How many ships do they have?" President Carter asked. "Thousands," General Foster replied. "Maybe. Tens of thousands. Our scouts have seen their main fleet, and it's massive. Ships the size of cities, all heading toward Earth." Jake felt sick. The human fleet was strong, but it was nothing compared to what the Hegemony had. "What about our defenses?" the president asked. "We have about 800 ships total," General Foster said, "but they're spread out across human space. It will take weeks to get them all back to Earth, and we might not have weeks." Dr. Graham leaned forward. "There's something else. The Hegemony ships use technology we don't understand. They can travel faster than anything we have. Their weapons can crack planets. Our best estimates say they'll reach Earth in less than a month." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what this meant. Earth, the home of humanity, was going to be attacked by an enemy they couldn't defeat. What are options? President Carter asked quietly. General Foster looked uncomfortable. We have Protocol 7. Jake had heard whispers about Protocol 7, but he didn't know what it was. From the look on the president's face, it wasn't good. That's a last resort, the president said. What else? We could evacuate Earth, suggested Dr. Graham. Get as many people as possible to the outer colonies that are still safe. And then what? General Foster asked. They'll just hunt us down. One by one. The hegemony won't stop until every human is dead. Jake spoke up. What about negotiation? Maybe we can find a way to talk to them. Dr. Graham shook her head. We've tried. They don't respond to any communication attempts. They just keep coming. As if to prove her point, Amy's voice came over. The intercom. Admiral Morrison, we're getting a transmission from the edge of the solar system. Put it through, Jake said. The main screen changed to show a single alien ship. It was huge, dark, and covered in strange symbols that seemed to glow. Then a voice spoke in perfect English. Humans of Earth, your species has been judged. You are a threat to the order of the galaxy. Surrender is not an option. Your extinction begins now. The transmission ended. The room was completely quiet. President Carter stood up slowly. General Foster, begin preparations for Protocol 7. Admiral Morrison, I want every human ship recalled to Earth immediately. We're going to make our stand here. Jake saluted. Yes, Madam President. As he left the room, Jake looked back at the screen showing the alien ship. It was just sitting there, waiting. Soon, thousands more would join it. The war for humanity's survival was about to begin. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the command center of Watchtower 7, watching the screens that showed human ships racing toward Earth. Every military vessel in human space was coming home, but Jake knew it wouldn't be enough. Admiral, Captain. Linda Hayes called from her station. We're getting reports from the recall fleet. Captain Steve Taylor is leading the largest group. They should be here in 3 days. Jake nodded. Steve Taylor was a good man and a great captain. His heavy cruiser Defiance was one of the most powerful ships in the human fleet. But even with all their ships together, they would still be outnumbered 10-1. What about the others? Jake asked. Captain Maria Rodriguez is bringing her destroyer Valiant and 6 other ships from the Centauri sector. Captain Tony Mitchell is coming from the Rim with the battleship Titan and his squadron. They're all pushing their engines to the limit. Jake felt proud of his people. They knew they were coming home to die, but they were coming anyway. That was what made humans special. On Earth, Dr. Lisa Graham was working in a secret laboratory deep underground. She had been down there for 3 days straight, surviving on coffee and determination. Beside her, Dr. Peter Adams was making final adjustments to a machine that looked like nothing anyone had ever seen. Are you sure this will work? Dr. Adams asked, wiping sweat from his forehead. It has to work, Dr. Graham replied. It's the only chance we have. The machine they were working on was called the Deterrent. It had been built in secret over 20 years using technology found in ancient alien ruins in the asteroid belt. The government had spent billions of dollars and used the best scientists in human space to create it. The Deterrent was not like any weapon ever built. It didn't fire bullets or energy beams. Instead, it could change the basic forces of the universe itself. But using it would require all the power on Earth and might destroy the planet in the process. Dr. Graham, came a voice over the intercom. President Carter wants to see you in the Situation Room. Dr. Graham sighed and headed upstairs. She found President Carter standing in front of a wall of screens showing the approaching hegemony fleet. The alien ships looked like dark clouds moving through space, blotting out the stars. How long until the Deterrent is ready? the president asked. 6 hours, maybe 8, Dr. Graham replied. But Madam President, you need to understand what will happen if we use it. The energy required will drain every power source on Earth. Cities will go dark. Life support systems will fail. Billions of people might die. President Carter closed her eyes. And if we don't use it, then every human in the galaxy will die, Dr. Graham said quietly. The president opened her eyes and looked at the screens again. Do we have any other options? No, Madam President. This is all we have. In space, Captain Steve Taylor was pushing his ship Defiance harder than it had ever been pushed. The engines were running at 120% power, and the ship was shaking from the strain. But they had to get to Earth before the hegemony arrived. Captain called his communications officer. We're getting a priority message from Admiral Morrison. Steve's face appeared on the screen at Watchtower 7. Admiral, the Defiance and her escort ships are 18 hours out. We're coming as fast as we can. I know you are, Captain, Jake replied. But we just got word that the main hegemony fleet has entered the outer solar system. They'll be at Earth in less than 2 days. Steve's face went pale. We won't make it in time for the main battle. You'll make it in time for what matters. Jake said, just get here, Steve. We need every ship we can get. Behind Steve, his crew was working frantically to keep the ship running. The Defiance was a tough ship, but she wasn't built for this kind of speed. Metal plates were buckling, and warning lights were flashing everywhere. Captain Maria Rodriguez was having the same problems with her destroyer Valiant. Her ship was smaller and faster than the Defiance, but she was also carrying refugees from the destroyed colonies. Every available space was filled with people who had lost their homes to the hegemony. Captain, her first officer said, we're getting reports that hegemony scouts are following us. They're gaining ground. Maria looked at the tactical display. 3 alien ships were chasing her group, and they were getting closer. All ships, prepare for combat. We need to buy time for the civilians. The battle was short and brutal. The hegemony ships were faster and more powerful, but the humans fought with desperate courage. Captain Rodriguez's Valiant took heavy damage protecting a transport ship full of children. In the end, they drove off the aliens, but at a terrible cost. On Earth, the final preparations were being made. Every military leader, every scientist, every government official who knew about the deterrent was working around the clock. They all knew that humanity had only one chance to survive. Dr. Adams finished the last calibration on the deterrent. It's ready, he announced. But Lisa, once we start this, we can't stop it. The process will take 2 hours, and during that time, we'll be completely vulnerable. Dr. Graham nodded. I understand, but we don't have a choice. President Carter received the news in the Situation Room. Around her, generals and admirals were planning the defense of Earth. They all knew it was hopeless, but they were doing their duty anyway. Madam President, General Foster said, our long-range sensors show the hegemony fleet entering Mars orbit. They have over 3,000 ships. Our entire fleet has maybe 800. The president looked at the tactical display. The human ships were arranged in a defensive formation around Earth, but they looked like a thin line against the massive alien fleet. Give me ship-to-ship communication with the entire fleet, she ordered. Moments later, President Carter was speaking to every human ship in the solar system. This is President Carter. In a few hours, we will face the greatest threat humanity has ever known. The odds are against us, but we are not fighting just for ourselves. We are fighting for every human child, every human dream, every human hope for the future. She paused, looking at the faces of the brave men and women who were about to die. For their species. The hegemony thinks they can destroy us because we are few, and they are many. They are wrong. We are humans. We do not surrender. We do not give up, and we will show them that some things are worth dying for. The communication ended. In ships throughout the solar system, human crews prepared for battle. They checked their weapons, said their prayers, and thought about the people they were protecting. Admiral Morrison looked out at the stars one last time. In a few hours, this quiet space would be filled with fire and death. But maybe, just maybe, humanity would find a way to survive. The final gambit was about to begin. The battle began when the hegemony fleet crossed the orbit of Mars. Admiral Jake Morrison watched from the command center as 3,000 alien ships moved toward Earth like a dark tide. The human fleet looked tiny against them, all ships. "This is Admiral Morrison," Jake spoke into his communicator. "Today we fight for our home. Today we fight for our future. Make every shot count." Captain Steve Taylor had arrived just in time with his heavy cruiser Defiance. His ship took position in the center of the human battle line, surrounded by dozens of smaller vessels. Steve knew they couldn't win, but they could buy time. "All weapons charged and ready, Captain," his weapons officer reported. "Fire when you have targets," Steve ordered. The space around Mars erupted in light and fire. Human ships launched missiles and energy beams at the advancing alien fleet. Some of the shots hit their targets, and several hegemony ships exploded in brilliant flashes. But for every alien ship destroyed, 10 more kept coming. Captain Maria Rodriguez led her destroyer Valiant in a desperate attack run against a group of hegemony cruisers. Her ship was faster than the big human battleships, and she used that speed to strike quickly and retreat. "Target their engines," Maria shouted over the noise of battle. "If we can slow them down, we can buy more time." The Valiant's weapons tore into the side of a hegemony ship, causing it to spin out of control. But the return fire was devastating. Maria's ship shook as alien energy beams hit the hull. "Hull breach on Deck 7, reported her damage control officer. "We're losing atmosphere." "Seal it off," Maria ordered. "Keep fighting." The battle raged for hours. Human ships darted in and out of the alien formation, striking where they could and retreating when the fire got too heavy. But slowly, inevitably, the human fleet was being destroyed. Captain Tony Mitchell's battleship Titan had taken heavy damage. Half his weapons were gone, and fires were burning throughout the ship. But Tony wasn't giving up. "All remaining ships, follow me," he broadcast. "We're going to ram that command ship." The Titan and 5 other damaged human vessels accelerated toward the largest hegemony ship. The aliens poured fire into them, but the human ships kept coming. One by one, they were destroyed, until only the Titan remained, Tony Mitchell's last. Words echoed across the fleet. For Earth, for humanity. The Titan slammed into the hegemony command ship at full speed. The explosion was so bright, it lit up the entire battlefield. When the light faded, both ships were gone, but the sacrifice had cost the humans dearly. Half their fleet was destroyed, and the hegemony was still advancing. Admiral Morrison knew they had maybe an hour before the aliens reached Earth. Planet below, Dr. Lisa Graham was making the final preparations for the deterrent. The massive machine hummed with power, drawing energy from every source on Earth. Cities were already going dark, as power was redirected to the weapon. "Charging sequence initiated," Dr. Peter Adams announced. 2 hours to full power. Double quotes. Dr. Graham looked at the countdown timer. They needed 2 hours, but the battle above wouldn't last that long. She picked up the communicator to speak with President Carter. "Madam President, the deterrent is charging, but we need more time." "How much more time?" the President asked. 2 hours minimum." President Carter looked at the tactical display. The human fleet was falling back toward Earth, pursued by the hegemony. "We'll get you the time, Doctor, I promise." But as the battle continued, it became clear that the human fleet couldn't hold out much longer. Ships were being destroyed faster than they could be replaced. The alien fleet was closing in on Earth. Admiral Morrison made a difficult decision. All ships fall back to Earth orbit. We'll make our final stand there. The remaining human vessels retreated to Earth, taking positions around their home planet. There were less than 200 ships left, facing over 2,000 alien vessels. As the hegemony fleet approached Earth, President Carter authorized one final action. She opened a communication channel to the alien command ship. "This is President Helen Carter of Earth. I am speaking for all humanity." The alien commander appeared on the screen. It was a creature unlike anything humans had ever seen, with multiple eyes and tentacles where a mouth should be. When it spoke, its voice was cold and mechanical. "Humans, your resistance is futile. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick." President Carter stood straight and looked directly at the alien. "I have a message for you and your entire species. You have crossed the galaxy to destroy us. You have burned our colonies and murdered our people. You think you have won." The alien commander's eyes focused on her. "You are defeated. Your fleet is broken. Your world is defenseless. You are wrong," President Carter continued. "We are not defeated. We are not defenseless. And we are not the helpless prey you think we are." She paused, making sure every word was heard clearly. "We are humans. We do not beg for mercy. We do not surrender. And when you push us to the edge, we push back." The alien commander made a sound that might have been laughter. "Empty words from a dying species." "These are not empty words, President," Carter said firmly. "This is not our surrender. This is your final warning." The alien commander's expression changed. Something in the president's voice made it pause. "You came here to destroy us," the president continued. "You wanted to hunt us. You wanted to erase us from the galaxy. You thought we were weak because we are few. You thought we were helpless because we are small." She stepped closer to the screen. "You were wrong about us. We are not weak. We are not helpless. And we are not going to die quietly." The president's voice grew stronger. "You want to know what humans are really like? You want to see what we do when we're cornered? You want to learn why we've survived every danger our world has thrown at us?" The alien commander was listening now, its multiple eyes fixed on the screen. "Then come closer," President Carter said. "Come to our world. Come to our home. Come and see what humans do when they have nothing left to lose." The transmission ended. The alien fleet continued its advance, but something had changed. The commander was no longer certain of easy victory. On Earth, the deterrent was reaching full power. Dr. Graham watched the energy readings climb higher and higher. All around the planet, cities went dark as their power was fed into the weapon. 90% power, Dr. Adams announced. 10 minutes to full charge. Above them, the final battle was beginning. The last human ships were engaging the hegemony fleet in Earth's orbit. Admiral Morrison's flagship was taking heavy fire, but he refused to retreat. "All ships, hold the line," he ordered. "Give them everything we have." The space around Earth filled with explosions and fire. Human ships fought with desperate courage, but they were being overwhelmed. One by one, they were destroyed. Captain Steve Taylor's Defiance was burning, but he kept firing. Captain Maria Rodriguez's Valiant was venting atmosphere, but she stayed in the fight. Across the fleet, human crews fought to their last breath. On the surface, Dr. Graham's hand hovered over the firing control. 100% power achieved, she announced. "The deterrent is ready." President Carter's voice came over the intercom. "Doctor, you are authorized to fire." "God help us all." Dr. Graham looked at Dr. Adams. They both knew this moment would change everything. Then she pressed the button. The deterrent fired. The moment Dr. Lisa Grime pressed the button, the universe changed. The deterrent didn't make a sound. It didn't flash or explode. Instead, space itself seemed to bend and twist around Earth. Admiral Jake Morrison watched from his damaged command. Center as something impossible happened. The entire hegemony fleet simply disappeared. Not destroyed. Not blown up. Just gone. As if they had never existed at all. What just happened? Captain Linda Hayes asked, staring at her empty screens. Jake didn't know how to answer. 1 second, 3,000 alien ships had been attacking Earth. The next second, there was nothing but empty space. Captain Steve Taylor's voice crackled over the communication system. Admiral, are you seeing this? The entire enemy fleet just vanished. I see it, Captain, Jake replied. But I don't understand it. On Earth, Dr. Graham was watching her instruments in amazement. The deterrent had worked, but not in the way she had expected. The weapon had done something far more powerful than simply destroying the alien fleet. Peter, look at this, she called to Dr. Adams. The quantum signature is spreading. It's moving faster than light. Dr. Adams studied the readings. That's impossible. Nothing can move faster than light. The deterrent isn't moving through space, Dr. Graham realized. It's moving through the fundamental structure of reality itself. The weapon had created a wave of change that was spreading outward from Earth at incredible speed. This wave carried information, broadcasting it to every corner of the galaxy. Captain Maria Rodriguez, whose destroyer Valiant had survived the battle, was monitoring deep space communications. Suddenly, her equipment lit up with signals from across the galaxy. Admiral Morrison, she called. I'm picking up transmissions from dozens of star systems. Something big is happening out there. Jake ordered the signals to be put on the main screen. What he saw amazed him. The galaxy was in chaos. Species that had been conquered by the hegemony were rising up in rebellion. Worlds that had been enslaved for centuries were breaking free. The hegemony empire was falling apart. How is this possible? Jake asked. Dr. Graham's voice came over the intercom from her laboratory. Admiral, I think I understand what happened. The deterrent didn't just destroy the fleet. It sent information to every intelligent species in the galaxy. What kind of information? Everything. The location of every hegemony world. The specifications of their technology. Their military strategies. Their weaknesses. Most importantly, proof that they can be defeated. Jake began to understand. For thousands of years, the hegemony had controlled the galaxy through fear. They had convinced everyone that they were unbeatable. But now, every species in the galaxy knew the truth. The hegemony could be defeated. They had weaknesses. They were not gods. Captain Hayes was monitoring the communications from across the galaxy. Sir, I'm getting reports from the Altair system. The local population has captured a hegemony base. They're using the aliens' own weapons against them. More reports came in. The Vega colonies had destroyed 3 hegemony ships. The Centauri Federation had liberated 2 entire star systems. Across the galaxy, the oppressed were becoming the oppressors. The hegemony built their empire on the idea that they were superior to everyone else, Dr. Graham explained. But once people realized they could be beaten, their whole system collapsed. On the bridge of a hegemony command ship, in a distant star system, the alien commander was receiving desperate calls for help from across the empire. Every base, every fleet, every colony was under attack. How could this have happened? The commander asked its subordinates. The humans, sir. They did something to our fleet at Earth. Now everyone knows our secrets. The commander's multiple eyes flashed with anger. Then we must destroy Earth completely. Send every ship we have. Sir, we don't have any ships left. They've all been destroyed or captured. For the first time in its long life, the hegemony commander felt fear. The empire that had lasted for millennia was crumbling in a matter of hours. Back on Earth, President Carter was receiving reports from across human space. The colonies that had been destroyed were being rebuilt. The hegemony forces that had been left behind were surrendering or being destroyed. Madam President, General Foster reported, we're getting requests for alliance from dozens of species. They want to join together to make sure nothing like the hegemony ever happens again. President Carter smiled for the first time in weeks. Accept their requests, General. It's time to build a better galaxy. Dr. Adams made another discovery in his laboratory. Lisa, the quantum signature has done something else. It's created permanent communication networks across the galaxy. Every species can now talk to every other species instantly. Dr. Graham understood the implications. That means no species can ever be isolated again. The hegemony was able to conquer the galaxy because they could attack one world at a time without anyone else knowing. Now, if anyone tries to build another empire, everyone will know immediately. The change was happening faster than anyone had imagined. Within days, the last hegemony strongholds had fallen. The species that had terrorized the galaxy for thousands of years was extinct, destroyed by the very people they had oppressed. Admiral Morrison stood once again at the observation window, but this time he was looking at something wonderful. Ships from dozens of different species were arriving at Earth, not as conquerors, but as friends. Admiral, Captain Hayes called, we're receiving a transmission from the Andromedan Council. They want to thank humanity for what we did. Jake smiled. Put them through. The screen showed a being that looked like a cross between a human and a bird. When it spoke, its voice was filled with gratitude. People of Earth, I am Ambassador Zara of the Andromedan Council. For 3,000 years, my people lived in fear of the hegemony. Today, we are free because of your courage. Similar messages came from across the galaxy. The Rigel Alliance thanked humanity for their sacrifice. The Polaris Federation offered to share their technology. The Vega colonies wanted to establish trade agreements. Captain Taylor, now commanding a new ship called the Liberation, was leading humanity's first diplomatic mission to the galactic core. He carried with him offers of friendship and cooperation. From Earth, Captain, his communications officer reported, we're receiving a message from the Galactic Assembly. They want to establish a new government based on equality and mutual respect. Steve smiled. Tell them we're interested. The galaxy was changing, and humanity was at the center of that change, not as conquerors, but as liberators. Not as rulers, but as partners. President Carter addressed the people of Earth from the rebuilt White House. My fellow humans, we have given the galaxy something it had forgotten. We have given it hope. She paused, looking out at the stars. The hegemony thought they could destroy us because we were small. They were wrong. We were not small. We were concentrated. We were focused. And when the moment came, we were ready. The president's voice grew stronger. Today, the galaxy is free. Today, 1,000 species can look at the stars without fear. Today, we have proven that no empire, no matter how powerful, can stand against the united will of free people. The response had been sent. The galaxy had heard humanity's message, and the universe would never be the same. 3 months after the deterrent fired, Admiral Steve Taylor stood on the bridge of his new ship, the New Hope. He was no longer just a captain fighting for survival. He was now humanity's chief ambassador to the galaxy, leading the first joint. Fleet in Galactic History. Captain Rachel Davis to Admiral Taylor, came a voice over the intercom. The diplomatic convoy is ready to depart. Steve looked out at the assembled fleet. Ships from 20 different species flew in formation around his vessel. Humans, Andromedans, Rigelians, Vegans, and dozens of others, all working together. Take us to the neutral zone, Captain Davis, Steve ordered. It's time to build something new. The New Hope and her escort ships jumped to hyperspace, heading toward the first meeting of the Galactic Assembly. Representatives from every known species would be there to create a new form of government, based on cooperation instead of conquest. On Earth, the planet was rebuilding. The deterrent had damaged many systems, but the discovery of abandoned hegemony technology had given humanity the tools to fix everything and more. Dr. Peter Adams walked through the halls of the new Global Science Institute, where human and alien scientists worked side by side. The institute had been built using hegemony construction techniques, but its purpose was completely different. Instead of building weapons, they were building bridges between species. Dr. Adams called Dr. Zara, the Andromedan scientist who had become his research partner. The quantum communication network is working perfectly. We can now talk to scientists on the other side of the galaxy instantly. Peter smiled. That's wonderful, Zara. What about the other projects? The medical exchange program is saving millions of lives. The agricultural sharing initiative is ending hunger on 12 worlds. And the education network is teaching young people from hundreds of species to work together. It was amazing how much had changed. 3 months ago, humanity had been facing extinction. Now, they were helping to build a better galaxy. President Helen Carter stood in the Rose Garden of the White House, meeting with Ambassador Keth of the Polaris Federation. The tall, blue-skinned alien had become one of Earth's closest allies. President Carter, Ambassador Keth said in his musical voice, the Polaris Federation would like to establish a joint colony with humanity in the Tau Ceti system. We'd be honored, Ambassador, the President replied. Our people have much to learn from each other. The ambassador's large eyes showed pleasure. My people have a saying, the strongest tree grows in the forest, not alone. Humanity has shown you as the truth of this. President Carter nodded. We learned that lesson the hard way, but we're glad we learned it. In the outer solar system, Admiral Jake Morrison was overseeing the construction of Gateway Station, humanity's first truly interstellar city. The massive structure would serve as a meeting place for species from across the galaxy. Admiral Captain Linda Hayes called from her new position as station commander. We're receiving the first group of permanent residents today. 50 families from 10 different species. Jake watched as the transport ships docked with the station. Human children played alongside young Andromedans. Rigelian traders discussed business with vegan merchants. It was a sight that would have been impossible just a few months ago. Captain Hayes, Jake said, I want you to make sure everyone feels welcome here. This station represents the future of the galaxy. Yes, sir, Linda replied. The future looks bright. The first meeting of the Galactic Assembly took place on a neutral world that had been devastated by the hegemony, but was now being rebuilt. Representatives from over 200 species gathered in a great hall that had been constructed specifically for this purpose. Admiral Taylor sat with the human delegation, watching as beings from across the galaxy discussed the formation of a new government. The debates were sometimes heated, but they were conducted with respect and a shared desire for peace. The chair recognizes the representative from Earth, announced the assembly moderator. Steve stood up and looked around the hall. Fellow beings, 3 months ago, my species was facing extinction. Today, we sit as equals in this great assembly. This transformation was not achieved through conquest or force, but through the power of hope and cooperation. He paused, making sure his words were being translated correctly for all the different species present. Humanity does not seek to rule the galaxy. We seek to serve it. We offer our knowledge, our friendship, and our commitment to ensuring that no species ever again faces the threat of extinction. The hall erupted in applause from hundreds of different vocal cords, creating a symphony of approval that filled the chamber. The assembly passed its first resolution unanimously, the creation of the Galactic Defense Force, a joint military organization designed to protect all species from future threats. Admiral Taylor was chosen as its first commander. Back on Earth, Dr. Lisa Graham was working on a new project. She had been studying the long-term effects of the deterrent and had made an amazing discovery. President Carter, she reported during their weekly meeting, the quantum signature created by the deterrent has done something unexpected. It's made the galaxy more stable. How so, Doctor? The hegemony's conquests created massive instabilities in the space-time continuum. Their destruction of entire civilizations left scars in reality itself. But the deterrent's quantum wave has been healing those scars. President Carter leaned forward. What does that mean for us? It means the galaxy is becoming more hospitable to life. Dead worlds are showing signs of recovery. Space travel is becoming easier and safer. The deterrent didn't just free the galaxy from tyranny. It freed the galaxy from the damage that tyranny had caused. Dr. Graham pulled up a holographic display showing the galaxy. Where once there had been dark zones of dead space, now there were points of light indicating new life. We estimate that within a generation, the galaxy will be more alive than it has been for thousands of years. 1 year after the deterrent fired, humanity celebrated the first Galactic Freedom Day. The holiday was observed by every species in the galaxy, not as a celebration of human victory, but as a celebration of universal liberation. Admiral Morrison, now retired, sat in his garden on Earth, watching his grandchildren play with young aliens who had come to visit. A small Andromedan child was teaching his grandson how to fly a hover toy, while a vegan youth showed his granddaughter how to grow crystal flowers. Grandfather, his grandson asked, "Tell us again about the war." Jake smiled. "It wasn't really a war, Tommy. It was a test. The universe was testing us to see if we were ready to join the galactic community. Did we pass the test?" asked the Andromedan child in her musical voice. "Look around you, Arya," Jake replied. "What do you think?" The children laughed and went back to their games. To them, having friends from across the galaxy was normal. They couldn't imagine a universe where different species fought instead of cooperated. Captain Rachel Davis, now commanding the first Joint Species Exploration Vessel, the Unity, was preparing for humanity's most ambitious mission yet. They were going to explore beyond the galaxy itself to see what wonders lay in the space between galaxies. "Captain," her science officer reported, "long-range sensors are detecting artificial structures in the void between galaxies. They appear to be very old." Rachel felt a thrill of excitement. "Set course for those structures. Let's see what's out there." As the Unity jumped into hyperspace, its mixed crew of humans and aliens working together, Rachel thought about how much had changed. A year ago, humanity had been alone and afraid. Now they were explorers again, pushing the boundaries of the known universe. President Carter, now in her second term, stood before the United Nations, addressing not just the people of Earth, but beings from across the galaxy who are watching through the quantum communication network. "My fellow citizens of the galaxy," she began, "when the hegemony threatened our world, they thought they were ending humanity's story. Instead, they were beginning a new chapter for all of us." She looked directly into the camera. "Today, children from 100 worlds learn together. Scientists from 1,000 species work side by side. Explorers from every corner of the galaxy push into the unknown together." The president's voice grew warm with emotion. "The hegemony tried to make us afraid of each other. Instead, they taught us to trust each other. They tried to divide us. Instead, they united us. They thought they were our end. Instead, they were our beginning." Dr. Grum, now leading the Galactic Science Council, had made another discovery. The ancient artifacts that had been used to build the deterrent were not unique to Earth. Similar artifacts had been found on worlds across the galaxy. It appears, she reported to the Galactic Assembly, that an ancient civilization left these artifacts for us to find. They faced a threat similar to the hegemony millions of years ago, and I built these devices to help future civilizations defend themselves. The implications were staggering. Somewhere in the distant past, another species had faced extinction and chosen to help others rather than save only themselves. They had left behind the tools that would eventually free the galaxy. Admiral Taylor, now commanding the Galactic Defense Force, received a report that made him smile. Sir, we're happy to report that the last hegemony holdout has surrendered. The species that once terrorized the galaxy has agreed to rehabilitation and integ.